Baruch atah Adonai melech hamakol me'Yisrael. Well, my friends, I don't think I need a microphone today. I don't think I need much today. Nobody ever records me. Should I be recorded? No. But thank you. Again, the group of Shirim is Lilui Nishmatz Reza Bat Yosef Meir, Mordechai Ben Moshe, Limu Ben Avram, Daniel Ben David, Groiser Yashikoach. Groiser Yashikoach to each. Sure. Is this any better? Okay, much better. Good morning, Rifki. We haven't seen you in a while. Mazel tov. Baruch Hashem. So a Groiser Yashikoach to everyone who came in this Gishmei Bracha. They say that when it rains, it's a time to daven. When it rains like this, it's a time to storm the heavens. We have to begin, wake us up just a drop, just to, with lightning speed. Okay. You've given the thunder. I can start now. Okay. It's all good, my friends. It's all good. Okay, my friends. Let's learn one nakuda about Purim, and gives us a little bit of perspective. The Sefer Shavit HaZahav of Kluger points out, and this is like a theme song of mine, so I really resonated with me. He says, when we're standing b'sharei HaMegillah, at the gates of Megillah Esther, and every one of us, b'chol echad nigash l'moda to Megillah, b'chol shana mechadash, we learn different ideas from new, and we have more chidushim, tzitzim, u'prachim. It's all built on, like layer by layer, it's all built on what we learned as 5-year-old kids. And we just go a little bit deeper and deeper. Sometimes we just have to step back and say, whoa. I make the assumptions, like I know the story, I know what's going on, and I know all these ideas from kindergarten, and I'm just adding to them. And sometimes a person has to really be able to not just have ach milvad ha'osafa b'kamut sheribu yediot, you also have to have histaklut yoter pnimit. You have to be able to take a look at it on a deeper level and just be able to see things from a different perspective. And that's really our goal for today. It's not so much chidushim today of new novel ideas, albeit we'll have them, but it's ability just to take a look at the story that we are familiar with, but just take a look at it from a bit of a different perspective. And then that's going to shift everything. Am I making any sense? I will in a minute. So not every year, the last few years, we have looked at Megillah Esther as a tapestry, and we've taken different color threads, and we focused on them as this is the theme of the Megillah. One year we did tefillah. The tefillah is the overriding theme. One year we did tshuva. The tshuva is the overriding theme, right? We take a look at it, and when you look at it from that perspective, suddenly like, oh man, you see blue everywhere. Oh, you see it red everywhere. This year, again, we're going to take a look at a theme that's really a fundamental theme, and that theme is Yerushalayim and the Beis Hamikdash. That's where we're going to be headed today. And we will see. Definitely.
That's where we're headed today, so I said, sounds good to me with our korbanot.
Source number 2, I neglected to write the source, is Rav Rivlin from Yeshiva Keren B'Yavne, Hesterim Shebe Esther. It's a very, very sweet sefer. I like it a lot. We've been using him. He is the one who threads in the Megillah. And he says in source 2, Echad hanosim hamerkaziim ha'over kechut hashani b'chol kitvei HaKodesh. One thread which is definitely found in all of Tanakh, who or he yichyudo shel hamakom asher yivchar Hashem Elokecha bo. It's about Yerushalayim. It's about the Beis Hamikdash. It's about Kedushas Haaretz v'Hamikdash. Every book of Tanakh is about Eretz Yisrael. Even a book like Chumash, it's all about going to where? To Eretz Yisrael. Every Nevuah is focused on Eretz Yisrael. That is the whole theme of Tanakh. Right? There is no other place. I know I'm speaking to the converted. Yeah, there is no other place except Eretz Yisrael. The one exception in all Kaf Dalet Sifrei Tanakh, which seems to be a sefer, which has nothing to do with Eretz Yisrael, is what? Megillat Esther. I'm just looking at Pshat of the book. The Pshat of the book. The only place I have mention of Yerushalayim, that is the Pasuk at the end of 2. Asher hogla mi Yerushalayim, im hagola asher hoglata im Yechonia melech Yudah, asher hegla Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel. How many times do I have the word Golos? Over and over again. The book is about Golos. We're in Shushan Abira. It's all about Golos. Ach dafka mitoch yediah zu, שהגלות היא חלק מהגאולה, ומתוך ההבנה שזו הסיבה העיקרית שבגינה יש לו לגלות חג משלה, שומה עלינו לחפש גם בפורים וגם במגילת הקשר והקשר לגאולה ולארץ. Golos never exists in its own. Golos is part of Geula. There's no such thing as just Golos. Golos is, exile means I'm exiled from somewhere and I long to go back somewhere. So therefore, the book of Golos, par excellence, book of Esther, has to be intrinsically connected to Geula. And it behooves us to be able to see that. And that's what the book of Esther is about. The book of Esther is about that which is hidden that needs to be revealed. Yeah? We're on the same page. Now, what I'd like to do is very simple today. I'd like to take a look at the book of Esther from, first of all, a historical perspective. The historical perspective we're going to see on 2 levels, the national and the religious. Then I'd like to take a look at the persona of Mordechai from a few aspects, and then look at Shushan Purim. And that's where we're going today. And I think we're just going to walk away with a little bit of a deeper perspective of reframing the entire Megillah. So let's take a look at the historical perspective. The book of Achashverosh, the book of the Megillah begins with Achashverosh making a party. And we know the party was in the greatest of kashrut standards. And the question is, well, why did Achashverosh make this party? So in order to appreciate why Achashverosh made this party, let's just go back in history. We're in Rav Beir's Sefer Masei Rokeim. I'm assuming that we have some knowledge of this. There's this great English book, and I wish I remembered the name. You ever, not remember things? There's this book. Maybe one day I'll remember the name. Yeah, probably. It's a novel. It's a novel, work with me, that is meant for children, like high school kids. It's written as a novel, of a mystery story that goes through the entire period from Yirmiyah, Churban Bayis Rishon, through Shivat Sion of Chagai Zechariah Malachi. I think it's English, every high school kid needs to read this, and I'm going to add something here. Every adult needs to read this as well. It gives you the entire perspective of Yirmiyah, of Ezra and Nehemiah, of Esther of Daniel in a way that is what? Accessible, user-friendly, because it's dealing with the family and the family's issues. Am I making sense? Someone recommended that I read it about Tisha B'Av time, because it goes through the Churban. I was so enamored by this book. I think I learned more from this book than studying Tanakh. It was so incredible. Now you're wondering what the name of the book is. I have no idea. I tell you, I don't know the author, but the same author wrote the book. That was the Dual Discovery. Do you know that book, Dual Discovery? Hoffman. It's a her, really, who wrote it. It's a pen name. But I'm not getting in there. Dual Discovery. So I guess you would Google in Google land Hoffman. Thank you. That was very good. And then you'll come up with this name of this book. Who's doing that for me? Okay, great. Song of Redemption. That's exactly what it is. How did you know? What'd you think of it? You're in it. Song of Redemption, Zachariah Hoffman. Again, it's a pen name. It's a woman who wrote it. Song of Redemption. Hoffman. You know, I don't get any what do they call it? Royalties when books get sold. Song. Yeah. What'd you say? Song. S-O-N-G. Song. S-O-N-G. Now, I have to say something. I'm just going to say this, and then I'm really going to focus today. I'm going to focus. I will just tell you a personal story. When I was in Mechila 40 years ago, I took a course, Pedagogia, which is teaching. And I remember the teacher I had, who was one of the master teachers in this world, was Rav Oretz, Zecher Tzadiv Karsel Vracha, Rav Chaim Oretz. He's a master pedagogue. And I remember him saying to me, 40 years ago, he said to me, you are a born teacher. Your only problem is you have a lisp and it's hard to understand you. And I said to him, I was in speech therapy my entire life. And in fact, when I went to Stern, the speech teacher said to me, I want to give you an A, but you can't understand you. So I had to sit with the chairman of the department, Penina Shram, who was a personality. And do you know Penina Shram? And I had to sit and read with her. And she says to me, I see the only thing I can read with you is Tanakh. So I sat and read with her Tanakh to get an A in speech. I have now dedicated my whole life to speaking, and you know what? People deal. So it happens that we come to these soul song, seashore experiences, and I still make my parnasa from speaking, and we manage. That was the end of my personal story for today. I'm sure you found it non-fascinating, and we are moving on. But what is important is that you can have a disability in your very area of expertise and still what? And still move forward. I don't want to use the word S anymore because I'm... Okay, my friends, I'm glad. This is what the weather brings out in us.
I never noticed you.
Really? Oh my gosh, my whole life. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. Source number 5. I knew, there we go, source. Forget the sources. Okay, I'm going to be focused. Remember I told you that this is the background of the story. And again, if you really want to learn, Tanakh without doing the Nach Yomi, this is a beautiful book. Someone picked it up and said, this is a kid's book. I said, I know that. get beyond that, and you'll learn tremendous amount. Okay, finished. The background to the story of Achashverosh is the following. We have the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. We have a nevuah of Yirmiyah HaNavi that says, after 70 years, the Jewish people are going to return to the land of Israel. Now, we have Belshazzar, who thought that the 70 years was up. He made a party with the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash, and that was literally the writing on the wall, Menei, Menei, Tekel Ufarsin, that, right? And that night he was overthrown. We then have Koresh, who's known as Cyrus the Great, who allowed the Jewish people to what? To return back. Here we go. This is the arrow in 5. Koresh sholech et Zerubbabel Yerushalayim, right? Koresh sends Zerubbabel. We speak about Zerubbabel in Mount Sur. Kate Bavel Zerubbabel lekate shivim noshati, right? So Zerubbabel goes back. Ve'itir lo latchil b'bniya mechudeshet shel hamikdash v'shel Yerushalayim, and he also gave them the money to build the Beis HaMikdash from the treasure houses of Nebuchadnezzar, which he took from Yerushalayim, and everything was wonderful. Now, the problem was, Rov ha'am ubikar ha'chashuvim va'nechbadim sheba'am, the elite of the people, nisharu bevavel. Only a small amount actually went back into Eretz Yisrael, and that's what the Kuzari speaks about in source number 6, which we are familiar with. He says, this is what we mean when we say, of course people were saying, Hishtachavu, I'm in 7, Lahar Kodsho, Vishtachavu, La'adom Raglav, Hamachazir Shchinaso L'Tzion, and Ki'im Kedibur Hatuki V'Kitzifsuf Hazarzir. It was like parroting these words. They really didn't mean it. They were very happy living al sir habasar, he describes it, the fat of the land in Bavel, and did not want to go to Eretz Yisrael. Any connection to what is going on today is purely what? Now, Achashverosh then comes to the throne. Achashverosh stops the building of the Beis HaMikdash. He has people write him letters that say it's not a good idea. Who was the chief among those people against the building of the Beis HaMikdash? Haman and his sons. And that is why, when in source 8, when Esther, goes to ask a request of Achashverosh, he says to her in the squiggly, Ad chatzi hamalchut, I'll give you until the middle of the kingdom, which seems to be magnanimous. Whatever you want. Chazal learn ad chatzi hamalchut, davar hachotzeitz v'malchus u'ma'ninu ze Beit HaMikdash. I'll give you everything but the Beis HaMikdash. That is non-negotiable. And the Maharal explains, right, in the Sefer Or Chadash, why is it he was so afraid of the Beis HaMikdash? Because he understood, if the Jews come back to Eretz Yisrael, then the Golus of Paras Umadai would be finished, and he would lose his kingdom. So this is a very much a political mindset of not allowing this. Hence, now we enter into the Megillah. V'lachein arach Achashverosh shuda b'meshech 180 yom. 9 bracket, thanks for asking. Shekol megamata v'tachlita la'aro lo'olam kulo. The whole focus was to show the world sheshuv ein ma lachshosh shekein afsu sikui malchut Yisrael of shulam koma. You see, the problem was the Jewish people were exiled in many different exiles. That's why the Megillah says, Asher Agla Yechonya Melech Yudah. It was the officers. It was the Sanhedrin. Each one of them had a different 70-year count. In Achashverosh's 70-year count, and Rabbi Strickhoff in his book, Inside Purim, has an appendix in the back which goes through how you can figure out those different 70 years. My father is a historian. I, therefore, have an aversion to anything that touches history. We had to learn all the presidents by heart by the age of 3, one of those. So you talk to me history, and I say, what else do we have on the menu today? He counted the 70 years. What was the party? Baharod et Osher Kvo Machuso, continuing in 9. Sudat Eretz Yisrael Hera'alahem. We no longer will have the worry of the Jewish people coming back to the land of Israel. We can be sure and ensure that this nevuah, this prophecy, is not going to be fulfilled. And we will be here forever. Klomar, Ein atem skukim od la'eretz Yisrael, shekain avudahi mekem. You have lost any connection to Eretz Yisrael and anything in it, and hence Achashverosh wears the clothes of the Kohen Gadol. And basically he is saying, my friends, this is it. The party that we open up the Megillah with is the party celebrating, say it? That's it. The demise of, and again we're going to look at, this is 2 levels. On this level, it's the national aspect of Eretz Yisrael. The Jews will never return back to the land. And this was their problem. This is in the asterisk. In the top of, over, I don't know, it's 11, it's 10. It's 10, but the 10 is cut off, so it's above 11, but you'll find it. The problem wasn't that they were eating non-kosher food. They lost the sense of what it means to be a Jewish nation. The whole party is about that we are no longer was a nation, b'diyuk. Al hayotam chelik b'midbar ha'amim. They will now intermingle with all the rest of the nations. That was the problem. This is what's going on here. And omnam darot shel Mordechai lo ya parutz b'avodah zarah. There weren't problem with avodah zarah. Parutz haya. כפי שנתבהר בנמיכות קומתו ובאי זקפותו הלאומית. Let's make Uganda Eretz Yisrael. We don't need to have a homeland. We don't need to be a nation. That was the problem of Megillah Esther.
I'm a little confused. Why would coming in the Nebuah destroy Ahasuerus' reign?
He felt that if the Beit HaMikdash is built and the Jews come back, this is the Maharal, they would then take supremacy, and that was going to, yep, and it could have. Had we all gone back, that would have been the end. He was absolutely right. The problem was what? What? Yeah, we didn't all go back. So what he was afraid of could have actually been actualized. Now let's take a... Yes, and to make a statement, even they agree.
And why would you go? Right?
Oh. And they were afraid that if they didn't go, it would have consequences. My friends, do we not deal today with these types of questions? I mean, history, they say, if you read the Megillah backwards, Lemafreya, you're not Yotzei. So the Hasidic pshat is, if you read the book as a story that once was, and not a story that is, you're not Yotzei. Megillah Esther is until the end of time. It's a story of our lives. They even say that all of your personal story is found. Yeah, 100%. Your own personal story is found in Megillah Esther. Everything is in there. Yes? Yes, we'll be batel except for Megillah Esther, 100%. Now, all of these is Rav Ber in Masei Rokaim. all of it, unless it changes. Now we're changing in source 12. And source 12, here we go. Sichar Eliyahu Rav Elia wrote, and he says the following. Let's take a look at this party from a religious perspective. So the national perspective is that the Jewish people are going to lose their nationhood, or on a religious level, he says the following. We all say, Mishenichnas Adar, but we don't look at the whole phrase, source 12. The whole phrase is, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Berei Darav Shmuel Bar Shila Mishmei Darab, Kishem Shemishenichnas Av Mimatim B'Simcha, Kach Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. And it gives it a whole different flavor. Just like when Av comes in, we diminish our joy, so too, when Adar comes in, we what? Increase our joy. So there obviously is some linkage between what? Adar and Av. What's the linkage? So he says, from there we learn that in Adar we're marbim b'simcha. What is the connection between the two? Okay, if the Beis HaMikdash was going to be rebuilt in Adar, it would make sense, but it isn't. So how do we understand it? So he explains in source 13, based on the Rabbeinu Yonah. We say a pasuk in the Yerushalayim of Monday. Yefei Nof, it happens to be a publishing, Yefei Nof, Misos Kol Haaretz, Har Tzion, Yarchtei Tzafon, Kiryat Melech Rav. And this is a reference to Yerushalayim. The Yefei Nof, which is Misos Kol Haaretz, the source of all joy, is Har Tzion. Why? Yarchtei Tzafon, the northern corner, reference to the Mizbeach. Why is Yerushalayim the most joyful place? A person would commit a sin, they could go to Yerushalayim, get expiation, and feel spiritually pure. Yerushalayim was the place of the greatest simcha. V'im kach in 14 in the squiggly, he shebeit hamikdash haya mekor hasimcha shel kol haaretz. The Beis HaMikdash was the center of joy for the whole world. Harei muvan, therefore we understand. Shekesh shecharav Beit HaMikdash histalka simcha. When the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed in that month, mimatim b'simcha. We reduce our joy because we don't have this place which is the what? The source of all joy. So we've established that joy and Beis HaMikdash are interconnected, and we understand Chodesh Av. Now let's move into Chodesh Adar. Back to the party. Let's look at it on a spiritual level. Achashverosh 15, Nahag b'suda shasa barmano kemo b'Beit HaMikdash. This Suda was constructed like a mini Beis HaMikdash. He wore the clothes of the Kohen Gadol. They ate from the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash, as well as in the arrow, the Gemara says that they darshan each and every name of the servants of Achashverosh to be connected with a different korban. Karshana, Shesar, Admasa, Tarshish, Amar Rabbi Levi. Karshana is connected to bringing the Karim B'nai Shana, the little sheep. Shesar, too, is a Shtei Torim. Admasa is about the Mizbeach Adama. They even had a mini service where each one of these officers did a service like the Beis HaMikdash then. And the Jews are what? Are there? Not only are they there, my friends, they're there. What'd you say? More than that. Ah, that's the key. 16. Because shenenu masuda, dahainu hishkiyot shelahem binyanei olam hazeh, hayta kol kach amuka ad kedei sheyeshvu. They were so immersed in that world that they could sit, achlu shatu, eat, drink, nenu visanku, and they could enjoy. Bisman Shibakoshi, there wasn't even 70 years from the Churban, and this is what you're doing? This was the place of Kodesh Kodashim, of the greatest Ruchnias, the Mesos Kol Haaretz, and now, not even 70 years later, there are people alive who saw both Batei Mikdash. Ashayu Misugalim, and the asterisk, little asterisk, lehen note, v'litanei, you can enjoy b'mishtek kazur, shebo hofchim, that you're turning the Beis HaMikdash itself, l'makom shel chumrias polam hazeh, you're taking the holiest of the holy and you're turning it into what? The most gross physicality? Achashverosh, who was the king of personal desires, wearing the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, and going through the mimicking this service, harei ze akira muchletet shel kol inyan shel Beit HaMikdash. How could they have been at that party? Okay, so they had to be at that party. They should have been at that party doing what? Mourning. You know, I had this experience. I said I was going to be over with my personal stories, but I just had this yesterday. Very few things bring me to tears. I'm not a person who cries. This one came what? So close. And I didn't handle it right. And I haven't been able to sleep at night. Okay, I did go to sleep, but I'm still very bothered by it. I'm going to share what happened yesterday. And it reminds me of this. I handed out a sheet just like this. You know, one of my, to my seminary students. My source sheets, my seminary students. And I'll tell you, I couldn't believe it. That's why I think I was more in shock that I didn't respond. And I have a girl sitting right here near me, and I wish I knew the girl's name. I don't, she barely shows up to my class. She comes in and out, and you'll see why. And I see, as I'm talking, she's playing with a, you know how they make these things, what do they call them?
Well, the little fortune things.
Little fortune things. You know, you pick it up. I don't know what they call them. And it really appeared to me that it was the source sheet. And then I saw a piece of paper on the ground, and I asked the girl, because this girl already left, to pick it up. And in order to have it the right size, she had to cut into a square. And the other half of my source sheet was on the floor. You don't agree with me? Oh my gosh. For anything. That, my friends, is what this reminds me of. You can take a source sheet, cut it, and make it into a fortune teller? Hello? Klal Yisrael are sitting in the party for 180 days, drinking from the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash. When we lane it in the Echatun, right? Kelim mekelim shonim. And they're enjoying themselves. And it's a mockery of the Beis HaMikdash. That's how he describes Harezu Akira Muchletet Shekol Inyan Shel Beis HaMikdash. And now we understand why the result was Hashem said, if you are not connected to me, why should I be connected to you? What was so bad, lahashmi, la'arog, la'abed, that they deserve such a punishment? It seems like a little bit intense. The food was kosher. The problem was they basically said to the Ribono Shel Olam, both on a national level and on a religious level, au revoir. We're not connected anymore. They had sunk to such a state. And the way the Gemara describes it in 18 is that when Haman says to Achashverosh, Yeshno am echad, in 18 in the bracket, Chazal learn it as Yashnu am echad. One nation is sleeping, which means Hainu shemekayimim mitzvot. Aval einet hachom, einet halev, einet achpatiyot. They're going through the motions of being religious. They're making sure the food is what? Glad kosher. And they're checking the mashkiach tzitzis to make sure that they're what? The mahudr tzitzis. But where is their relationship with Ribono Shel Olam? Where is that bren? Where is that yashnu min mitzvos? It's a society that's all about the externals, and that internal connection is missing. It's a society that's all about the gashmius, the physicality, and again, going through the motions, but the physicality, it's like the bar mitzvah. The bar is more important than the mitzvah. That's the problem that we're dealing with here. And that's what you see at Ayov. You don't agree with me. That doesn't excuse our behavior. Harbe shluchim lamakom. Many things can happen in many ways. Yeah, no, you're right. What you're saying is correct. What you're saying is correct. This is how it had to be orchestrated because of what we've done. And it would have been orchestrated differently. That's it. That's exactly it. There are harbe shluchim lamakom. That's it. That's exactly the point. There you go. You hit the nail on the head. Now, that is why when they're acting in this way, it's not just about yashnu min mitzvos. Rav Elia Roth goes on in 18 to say it's an akira. It's undermining Mamad Har Sinai, because Mamad Har Sinai, as we've learned here, was given not b'tardema, sleeping. It was with Aish and with fire, and the whole Torah has to be with passion. And we know, as the Ramban tells us, the Mishkan, the Beis HaMikdash, is a continuation of what? Har Sinai. And we describe, and this is in our Birkos Haftarah in the double bracket, the Beis HaMikdash, he Beit Chayenu, Rachem al Tzion ki Beit Chayenu. Do any of us look at our life, but adishut, with adishut is? What? The more, apathy. Apathy, that's the word I'm looking for. With apathy, no! And that's why Mordechai had to bring the people back into what? Into passion, into sa'aka, into bringing back the Ribono Shel Olam into our lives. Kimu v'kiblo Yehudim aleim v'al zaram. He had to have a reacceptance of the Torah, which is basically reconnecting the Jews that were lost. And this is, in flipping the page, this is not just connecting them to Torah. Mordechai also had to connect them to what? To the Beis HaMikdash. And hence, in the double bracket in 20, the second paragraph, when Haman came to take Mordechai on the horse, Mordechai was teaching the Kinderlach, and he asked him, what are you teaching? And he was teaching them the mitzvah of Omer. It's the laws of the Beis HaMikdash. What was Mordechai focusing in on with the children? We have to look toward the Beis HaMikdash. We have to look toward this relationship. This is the place of relationship. And therefore, Yotzei Efo in the bracket in the asterisk 21. Shemashit Chadesh b'Chodesh Adar. What happened in Chodesh Adar? Mishenichnas Adar, right? Ze Mamad Har Sinai mechadash. What happened in Adar was a new Mamad Har Sinai. Mamad Har Sinai is akin to the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, Mishenichnas Mimatim b'Simcha, Mishenichnas Adar Marabim b'Simcha, because the Simcha of Adar is the Simcha of reaccepting the Torah and the longing toward that ultimate relationship with Hashem, which is found in the Beis HaMikdash. So if we would summarize what we've seen till now, my friends. The whole backdrop of the story of Megillat Esther, and again, Megillat Esther, it's the hiddenness that has to be revealed. That's the name of the Sefer. Is we come into this beautiful party. Stop. What is this party about? Some people even say that Achashverosh was celebrating 3 years of the decree that there should be no Binyan Beis Hamikdash. So we're really celebrating, hands off, no Beis Hamikdash. We're celebrating the Jews are goners. We're celebrating the demise of the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are going to that party and enjoying themselves. That is the ultimate aspect of saying to Hashem, au revoir. You know, I've used this example here before, but I'm just going to use it again because I think it's such a concrete example, and it will ring a bell to you, I'm hoping, and then we'll move forward. The example I give my students is the example of, let's say, Shani marries Avi, and they're married for 6-7 months, and Shani says to Avi, you know, Avi, it's such a pleasure being married to you. I'm so excited to be your wife, and you're sitting and learning, and it's amazing, you know, the Ramat Eshkol, you know, iced coffee, you know, those, you can't miss them. They all look like teeny poppers. Do you know what I'm talking about? With their iced coffee in the hand. And Shani says, Avi, this is like the life. My parents' credit card, no, that. This is the life. And she says, you know, Avi, I have to tell you something. Before we got married, I had a boyfriend. His name was Dovi. I don't know if I've ever mentioned him to you. And Dovi just texted me that he's in town, and he's learning here. And Dovi's not yet married, you know. And Avi, I'm very happily married to you. Dovi and I used to have a good time hanging together. So I said, you know what, you're in Kolel till, 9 o'clock at night. So Dovi, Avi, so Dovi and I are we're not going to do anything, we're just going to go out for ice cream, and we'll go bowling, and then we'll go ice skating. And don't worry, I'll leave food for you if I'm not back. And that's what Klal Yisrael were saying. I'm married to you. I'm doing the mitzvos. I'll leave you food. But where am I putting my enjoyment? With somebody else. Basically, you are saying that you have no longer have a what? A marriage. Could we hear this? And again, obviously, we have to look inward and ask ourselves this question. Where's our focus? Where's our enjoyment? Purim is a time for us to take that introspection. Do we say similar things? That, of course, I'm doing Torah mitzvahs, but where I get my fun from is my not my fun, my geschmack. Is that word you were going to use? Yes, that's what I was going to use too. Now, let's talk about the personality of Mordechai. I'm going to move a little bit faster because I don't have any time. 22. We find throughout the Megillah the setting of the story takes place in the city of Shushan. However, Rabbi Feiner, Purim eternal. However, Shushan is generally not just referred to as Shushan. It's labeled as Shushan Abira. Why is it labeled that way so many times? Just say the first time it was Shushan Abira. So he says in 22, there is a Gemara in Yuma that quotes from a Mishnah in Para that uses this uncommon word. Reish Lakish explains the entire Beis Hamikdash is called Bira, as is clear from verse in Divrei Hayamim. Once we know the word Bira is generally reference to Beis Hamikdash, we can appreciate why this word was continually placed into the Megillah. Perhaps Mordechai and Esther wanted to stress to the readers that the backdrop of the entire story of Megillah Esther revolved around the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash. And you see, moving down, Mordechai's overwhelming love for Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash, should not tolerate this. Mordechai was listed as one of the first people who would return with Bavel when Koresh had authorized rebuilding Beis Hamikdash. But he was then forced to leave Yerushalayim when Achashverosh, who had taken over the rulership, withdrew the building permit. Mordechai had no choice but to leave his beloved city of Yerushalayim to go to Shushan. Why? And the asterisk, to attempt to lobby for an allowance to continue the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Mordechai's mindset was therefore completely absorbed in his affection and attachment to the Beis Hamikdash, even when he was in Shushan. And hence, in 24, he's always sitting Bishar HaMelech, in the gates of the king. So he should never think about the gates of the king, the city of Yerushalayim. Is it not interesting, in double squiggly in 24, that Mordechai's name reflects this. Mordechai's name comes from Mordror, which is the Ketorah. You know what's so fascinating? Okay, so in the Beis Hamikdash, there was the Ketorah. It's much deeper than that. In 25, do you know that in the Akedah story, that Avram Avinu goes to Har Moriah? Rashi asks, what Beis Hamikdash is built at Har Moriah? What is Har Moriah? Rashi says it's either the city that teaches, or Onkelos, it's the mountain of the Mordror. Har Moriah itself is named for this spice. Mordechai's whole name is connected with Har Moriah, right? The name is the essence. He is Yerushalayim. And we see this in 26. We've spoken about this before. The name... No, his brother. Jonathan, Avi. Avi? I don't know. I think it's Avi. Don't quote me on it. It's not Eitan Feiner. He writes Sakdama. Mordechai, it comes from Mordror, which was one of the spices in the incense offering. It was a spice. And the whole mountain was called on that spice because it was a very beautiful smell. His ancestors, Mordechai ben Yair, ben Shimi, ben Kish. 26. The Gemara darshans out their names. Ben Yair, the son of light, that he enlightened their eyes in prayer. Where is the source of all light in the world? Mehechan orah nivreit, in the squiggly in 26, from the place of the Beis Hamikdash. The place of light is the Beis Hamikdash. Ben Shimi, the son of who hears, that Hashem hears his tefillah. What is the place that Hashem hears our tefillah? Beis Hamikdash. Ben Kish, the one who knocked on the doors of mercy. Where are the doors of mercy? Where is the Sharei Rachamim? None other than the Beis Hamikdash. You with me? This is it, my friends. The entire Mordechai, his persona is connected with the Beis Hamikdash. You know, it's very interesting in 28, when Achashverosh can't sleep that night, but Lailu Nadash Nat Hamelech, and he asked to bring the book of thing, right? And the pasuk says, "Vayimsa katuv," and it was found written. The Hebrew should be "Vayimsa katav." Katuv means present, and the Medrash says that the scribe kept on erasing what Mordechai did, and the Malach kept on filling it in. What's going on here? So he brings down here at the end of 28, why did Mordechai even want to try to save the king? Achashverosh isn't so good. Kill him. And the answer is, maybe if I save him, he'll owe me one, and I can ask for the Beis Hamikdash. And that's why in 29, the Gra notes, why was the king so ready to have Mordechai ride on the horse when he hated the Jews? And the answer is simple. Achashverosh was afraid that he'd come to the party and Esther would ask him, because Esther said in the name of Mordechai, ask him a big favor, like building the Beis Hamikdash. So he immediately said, let's give him a what? A great reward, and then I can come to the party. And if Esther says, you know, Mordechai did this, you owe him, he can say, what? I paid him back. You don't have to worry. I will bring down here, I'm not going to do it inside just because I lost my time. I don't know how I did that, but I do it often. In 30 and 31, a fascinating idea. I'm just going to bring it, and then I'm moving out, of another reason why Achashverosh was so quick to put Mordechai on the horse. This is from Rav Yonasan Eibeshitz, the Yaros Dvash. He says something fascinating. Achashverosh saw in the stars that a Jew would take over his kingdom. And that worried him more than anything else, thinking that his kingdom was going to be usurped. We know that sometimes if you can have that nevuah enacted in a minor type of way, you've been yotze. You know, it's like Paro says, I'm not sending you to the desert because I see in the stars this ra'ah, this blood in the desert, and you're all going to die. We know the blood was the blood of what? Bris Milah. So having Mordechai ride on the king's horse wearing the crown was making a Jew a king for a day, and therefore he doesn't have to worry about his kingdom being usurped. In the end, his son from Esther, Daryavesh, who allowed them to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash, was king. So what he saw was what? Was correct. Let's go back to Mordechai in 32, Rabbi Feiner's book. This is Gevaldik. Mordechai is known as an Ish Yehudi and Ish Yemini. And they talk about his mother was from one side, his father was from another. Who cares? Why are we so into Ish Yehudi, Ish Yemini? And I'll tell you why. Because there's another place where Yehuda and Binyamin intersect, and that is Yerushalayim. The Beis Hamikdash was both in Yehuda's section and Binyamin's section. Rabbosai, are you hearing this? This is like, that's what I said today. I'm not teaching you anything new. I'm just taking what we've learned and reframing it. It's all about the Beis Hamikdash. Mordechai represents the Beis Hamikdash. It's interesting, the Mishnah in Shkolim, continuing in 32, states that Mordechai was also known as Pesachia. He was the administrator of the bird's nest in the chest to purchase the pairs of birds in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, what is that all about? So he explains the following. He explains there were two types of birds that were eligible to be brought as offerings to Beis Hamikdash: Torim uvnei Yonah. The Ramban explains that doves were specifically chosen because the Jewish nation is compared to a dove. While other birds will never return to their nest that has been tampered with, a dove is unique. It will always return to its original nest. The Jewish nation has that same characteristic. Perhaps Mordechai was a perfect fit for this position because Mordechai was always yearning and longing for the return from exile and for the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash. His entire life revolved around bringing the greatest amount of glory of Hashem into this world. Go back to your nest. Look at the end of the Megillah. The end of the Megillah ends that Mordechai was Doresh, Tov la'amo, v'dover shalom l'chol zaro. Doresh Tov la'amo. The bottom of this source, we know that we have a bracha in benching called Bonei Yerushalayim, rebuilding Yerushalayim. The Gemara asks, how do I know I need to have a bracha in benching about Yerushalayim? What's the source? And the Gemara says the source is the pasuk where benching comes from. What's the pasuk benching comes from? Ve'achalta, v'savata, uve'rachta. What's the end of the pasuk? V'achalta v'savata v'rachta al ha'aretz ha-tova. The Gemara says, what is tova? What is referred to as tov? The Beis Hamikdash. Doresh tov le'amo. And Yerushalayim, we know, 34, is referred to as Sion He Doresh Ein La. What's the problem with Yerushalayim? No one is Doresh it. He was Doresh Tov La'amo. We need to try to learn from the lesson of Mordechai and constantly yearn for the return of Yerushalayim, for the rebuilding of Beis Hamikdash. Just as Mordechai was Dorish Tov Lamo, we must daven, seek the return of our true and everlasting Bureau, the third base of Mikdash may come speedily in our times. And now we're on our final page. Here we go. So let me just pause on this ending of this idea before we get to the final, and then I want to drive it home. Mishenichnas Av Memati Mesimcha. We've spoken about here, when Av comes in, we need to focus in on our davening on the words that have to do with Yerushalayim in our davening. Uvenei Yerushalayim, stop. L'shuascha kivinu kol hayom, stop. V'sechazena einenu b'shuvcha l'tzion barachamim, stop. Mishenichnas Av Mematim B'simcha, kach Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'simcha. Our davening starting today, within the week of Purim. What should we be focusing on? Geula. We are mamish in the cusp of redemption. What is Hashem waiting for? Us. Someone said me a beautiful thing, that the Mishkan, Parsha Pekudei, is called a mashkon. Hashem holds that as a collateral, right? When you're deserving, I'll give you back your collateral, I'll give you back your base of Mikdash. But the halacha is, if someone takes someone's collateral and they really need it, like they take a collateral, their only shirt, if they beg and plead and they say we really need it, you're chayav to give it back. That's how we have to look at the base of Mikdash. We have to mamish be what? Davening. And again, this is not like a classic theme of Purim, right? We've talked about tefillah and tshuva. Another deep theme of Megillah is Geula. And now, like you feel it in the air, but we have to what? We have to want it. Doresh tov la'amo. Ad chatzi ha'malchos. We have to say this is it. We need it, Hashem. We want it. Our davening, just like highlight these tefillot, like mamish. Final idea. You know where you see that Mordechai and Esther had Yerushalayim in the primacy of their life? It's from Shushan Purim. Why does Esther want another day? This is Rav Wilson. It's really festivals of faith. I was debating festivals of faith, feasts of faith. I crossed out festivals, wrote feasts, couldn't find the book. It's festivals. I found the book. Brand new, right? We've been using Rav Wilson lately. This is brand new on Purim. And she's bloodthirsty. She wants another day. No. She wants a day to remember Yerushalayim. And that is why the halacha is that the cities of the time, from the time of Yoshua ben Nun, the walled cities will have Shushan Purim. Esther pleaded with Achashverosh, tomorrow should also be given to Jews. I'm a squiggly in 36, to the Jews in Shushan. She wanted a day that remembered Yerushalayim, the holy city that was then destroyed and desecrated. Of course she couldn't tell it to Achashverosh. Esther knew that eventually the city of Shushan would be destroyed and covered over, as all empires are eventually overtaken and destroyed. Yerushalayim, however, is eternal. Shushan Purim was the day to remember Yerushalayim. That's the calling of Esther Hamalka. And he goes on here to say that, and this is, I'm talking to you because I am not a Shushan Purim Jew, that those who have the hashkacha of being in Yerushalayim on Purim are in the highest of the high. This is where you can't get higher than this. This is the full moon. This is Geula. This is where it's at. People outside Yerushalayim have an idea called Shushan Purim. You'll say Tachanon, it's longing to be there. Our job on Purim, when Klal Yisrael are looking for 39b, mitzapim umiyachalim l'biyat Mashiach Zikenu binyan beis hamikdash, Megillat Esther mechazeket. It strengthens us in the depth of Galus that, you know what, the Geula can come keherif ayin immediately. And here's where I want to end, and this is where I want to take my last minute, literally, that I have. Which is by the Geula of Nisan, right? Smicha Geula l'Geula. The Purim is bringing in the Geula of Nisan, right? That's a zach. There is a rabbi. Every generation has Gedolei Adar, Moshe Bedoro. We have a Moshe in our door. His name is Rav Moshe Sternbach. He's the Gaon of Beistin, the Ravid, the Gaivid. Rav Sternbach is the one who predicted Simchas Torah. He said very clearly something major is going to happen. Rav Sternbach is the one who gave a bracha to Rav C. Kushelevsky that he was going to have a child, and 9 months later he did at the age of 88, which is a story in its own right. I'm not going down there. It's a taste of the future. Rav Sternbach has been quoted as saying, and I've heard different ways of quoting it, so I'm a little bit reticent to quote this is exactly what he said, because he definitely has come out saying, we are in an eight Sarah now that is far worse than Simchas Torah. I've heard it quoted in his name, and I don't know if he said it, so I can't say he said it, because that Hashem is waiting for a tefillah on Purim. I do know one thing, my friends, that the tefillos on Purim have a different dimension than all year. We spoke about mimakom acher. It's a higher dimension. That when Klal Yisrael were at the verge of being extinct, the Yeshua came literally out of nowhere and saved us. And that energy, again, I've always referred to it as Hershey Kisses coming down from heaven. That energy comes back every year on Purim. This tremendous love, tremendous giving. And the tefillah, we've spoken about the tefillah right after Kriyas Megillah. The tefillah in the Suda are very powerful tefillahs. My friends, we all have our own pekalach that we need to daven for. This year, we have no option. Top on our list is Geula. Top on our list is Eretz Yisrael. Top on our list are the Jews in the entire world. All of us, we're in Eight Sarah. We're in this situation here. So this isn't meant to scare us. This is meant to empower us. We have a weapon in our hands. We have our shlichei habore, these tremendous soldiers who are being moser nefesh day after day in weather like this to fight for us and protect us. And each and every soldier is a kadosh elyon. And we have the weapons that we have as well, and that's tefillah. And we have to utilize both. When you have a Purim, which is such a powerful 8 Ratzon, drop everything. It begins this year, and I think it's not by accident. Hashem gave us really 5-day Purim. What do I mean? Purim begins Tanis Esther. And it continues for you, at least, definitely through Shushan Purim. My suggestion, among your friends, among your family, divide up Tehillim. See if we can get through the Sefer Tehillim. There's nothing to play around with. There's no option. And the focus has to be Uvenei Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Bimhei Rabbi Amenu, Amen v'Amen.